Well, that is all the sport for now. You can find lots more on all those stories on the BBC Sport website, including coverage of Rafa Nadal's match against Daniil Medvedev at the O2 in London this afternoon. You can also watch that on BBC Two. But that's it for now. We will see you at 1:30.
Lovely. See you later. Thank you very much. OK, let's get more reaction to Labour's NHS spending plans, as we've been hearing. I'm not sure if you can hear me at all. We've got some technical issues going on here in the studio. I'm hoping that you can hear me, you can see me. We're talking more about what Labour has been saying this morning about its NHS spending, saying that it would spend £6 billion more a year on the NHS in England than the Conservatives were it to win the general election. Siva Anandasiva is Chief Analyst at the King's Fund, which is a health charity. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I think the technical issues are over. Good. So the Tories are basically proposing an increase per year of 3.3% on NHS spending. Labour saying they'd go up by 4.3%, and that equates to £6 billion per year. What difference would that make?
So I think it would make a considerable difference to services. I think looking at the Labour proposals, there are two things that strike me. The first is that it does look much more generous than the current government spending plan. So as your report's already noted, by 23-24 there would be broadly about an extra £6 billion going into NHS services. But the other thing that will make a difference is that the Labour Party's proposals are also much more comprehensive. So they have set out their plans for investing more in NHS buildings, facilities, equipment, the education and training of clinical staff, and also public health services, things that help people stop smoking, for example. So on paper, it does look like both a more generous and a more comprehensive offer for NHS funding.
Previous analysis was that there needed to be an increase of more than 4% in order to actually start transforming the service. So would you say that this could potentially be transformational?
Yes, so I think if you're looking at 4.3% increases in the health budget, that is in the space where you would expect the service to both modernise and start to transform how some services are delivered. But the one thing I'd say is it's not a bonanza, so it's not at the same level of the increases that we saw under the Blair and Brown periods where the NHS was really turbocharged. And the second caveat that's been mentioned throughout the day is workforce. The NHS has 100,000 clinical vacancies. So additional funding is part of the answer, but by itself won't deliver improved services for patients.
And of course, the ageing population, growing population. So how much does that eat into these increases?
So quite a lot. If you look at just demand for A&E services, we're seeing that increase at about 5% a year. Right. So part of this additional funding will help the NHS keep pace with those rising demands. But as you've already alluded to, that will leave relatively little to fundamentally transform the service by investing in things like technology, by recruiting all the additional staff that we need in primary care and community settings that will deliver services close to patients' homes.
So does that then take us back to the age-old debate, which of course no politician wants to tackle, particularly in the run-up to the election, which is
service by investing in things like technology, by recruiting all the additional staff that we need in primary care and community settings that will deliver services close to patients' homes.
So does that then take us back to the age-old debate, which of course no politician wants to tackle, particularly in the run-up to the election, which is what should the NHS actually be doing, and is this a sustainable path to be going down? Because basically there is a discrepancy in what the Tories say they'd spend and Labour say they spend, but ultimately they're both walking down the same route here.
So that's true that there's relatively little distance between the two parties when you really unpick the numbers. I think that the question will always come back over whether the NHS is being asked to do too much. By providing these 4% increases, I think you can argue that the NHS would have enough to keep pace with rising demand. But if we talk about adult social care, I think that's where you really have to ask questions over what the parties are willing to pay in order to put this critical service back on a more sustainable footing.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.